Welcome to the Clifton Worley Show. This week we have special guest with us, Mike Copeland. What's up, man?
Hey, man. How's it going, Clifton?
It's going good. I was just thinking here, I believe it was probably 13 months ago, almost to the day, that we recorded our first episode with you. And back then I was doing the Whirlybirds. We were talking about that a minute ago with Nick and Josh, and we had a really good time. And that was kind of my first introduction into what you do. You're with you do Loophole Pedals, and we'll kind of talk about that here. Well, I'll tell you what, Mike, just kind of let you catch us up to speed with what you're doing with Loophole and kind of what's been happening in your life in the last year, and kind of update our listeners on what your journey's been like.
Yeah, absolutely. This past year has just been, there's been a lot of change in my personal life. I've had a new day job that caused us to move to Dallas, the big city. So that's been a total change in atmosphere. And then pedal-wise, huge improvements. We bought a bunch of equipment to kind of do stuff better and faster. I brought on a tech that I trust to do my mods. The mods are still being done according to my specifications and whatnot. But we have our mod doing those, or our tech doing the mods now. We scaled back on the custom side of things, the DD7 rehouses and whatnot, and are just focusing on the DD20 rehouses for now, the Boss delay. And then after 2 years of trying real hard, we got the Gray Matter launched this past weekend. So there's been a lot of fun things going on in the past year. Yeah,
well, I saw that you posted that the other day, and it caught my interest to the point where I said, you know what, I remembered you'd shared something about, it'd been like a year ago that you were on the show. And when I saw that you were posting about the new pedal, I said, you know what, it would be awesome to just kind of catch up and see, what you're doing now versus what was happening a year ago. So you were over like in the suburbs of Dallas, and now you've moved out back to Dallas, and you're working there. Kind of, if you will, if you don't mind speaking to it, kind of what that journey has been like, stepping in to the new career and balancing the Loophole thing, kind of like what that's been like.
Oh yeah, it's been a challenge sometimes. Kind of mixing what pays the bills and provides for the family during the day, and the passion, kind of hero by night and weekend type of thing, building pedals. Work-life balance, it's always a balancing act, mixing family with hobbies and business and day job, but I think it's working out pretty well. Priorities-wise, you just got to keep family first, and then passion second, and then the day job just kind of follows in with being dedicated to providing for the family. So, it's been hard sometimes, but it definitely pays off in the long run. Getting to put products in people's hands that inspire them to make new music, and just getting to meet new people. There's so many awesome people in the music industry. It's just been a ride. And then as far as the change of atmosphere from Waxahachie to Dallas, I lived in Waxahachie about, I want to say 12 years or 13 years. Went to school there, went to college there, and then Dallas is like, I love it. And I'm not downtown, I'm just outside of downtown, so I don't have too much of the hustle and bustle. So I don't know, there's still this southern attitude, like everybody's kind of friends. When you go into Walmart, you can say hi to whoever. People won't just like hate you for looking at them. But yeah, I love it here in Dallas. Probably even more than Waxahachie, honestly.
I was looking at your website today, and
and
it looks like you kind of pared down to this, like more specific things that you're doing and specific pedals that you're doing the mods on. Is that kind of just to give like customers an idea of what's available and what you do? I mean, are you doing other things, willing to take on other projects at this time?
Like I was saying, I kind of dialed back the custom stuff. It's really hard to, so pretty much the steps of a custom project are like this. And I've done this, several dozen times with just crazy stuff someone may have wanted that didn't turn out, or projects that, went really well and are being used on a board somewhere in the world right now. So like someone will contact me saying, I need a custom looper that has 3 channels that you can blend again, blend all together, and it has a boost at the output and has a buffered input. I mean, something really specific, really niche that someone would want. So I would have to kind of research what they need, how it fits in their pedal board, and take a couple hours of research there and talking to them to figure out what they really want. And then designing something that's realistic, something that would fit in the right size enclosure to fit on their board, and then give them a price quote to see what it would cost them. And the majority of the time, after I was able to price it out and send it to them, they weren't really interested anymore because it would take me 6-7 hours to build it, plus parts. It just wouldn't be worth it in the end. So it's really hard to reproduce custom work. Like in a business, oftentimes it's easiest and most profitable to either make a product like a pedal that I just released, or a specific service line that is bought over and over and over. So custom work, I mean, it's great for builders who are just getting started. It's great for hobbyists who want something really specific to their board. But from a business standpoint, man, it's like you almost lose money in the long run by taking on certain custom projects.
Yeah, I can imagine. It seems like anything that one would want to do, whether it be a builder or a business, it's offering some type of service, there's such a huge learning curve in knowing how to the direction to head with your business.
Yeah. And
once you kind of figure that out, then you kind of can run with it and say, yeah, I'm comfortable doing this. This is what I do well. And this other stuff, I just don't know how that fits into the scope of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so you mentioned that the DD20, you're doing the rehouses on that. Is that because well, let me back up and say this. The DD20 is a great pedal. At a phenomenal price right now on the used market because of other things that have popped up. Is there is that because there's a cult following there still with that pedal?
I think there's definitely a cult following with the DD20. And I mean, I think because it's so iconic and it's so well loved, there'll probably always be a following for it until they discontinue it someday. Kind of similar to the DL4, the Line 6 competitor to it. But I mean, the DD20 is just you can do so much with it, from dialing in the BPMs to after the rehouse, the dedicated tap tempo switch. There's 5 presets in the thing, backlit display, external jack for control stuff. I mean, there's just so many options, and then the tone of it is just phenomenal. Everybody uses it, from amateurs to professionals. I mean, everything in between. Yeah,
and it's such a great value on the used market right now.
Yeah, I think you can get them for all day for $150, but if you snipe for one on eBay or Reverb or something, you could probably get them for $100, maybe even less.
Which is phenomenal, I think, for what it does. Now, when we're talking about delay pedals, I have the Flashback X4, and I noticed that you had a section there on TC electronic pedals, and it seemed to be like a lot of the bigger format pedals. the mods that you predominantly were doing, like you had the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the tier 1 was predominantly the foot switches being replaced. And those is there a problem with those, like kind of the way they are, the OEM?
Yeah, I think the TC Electronic ones are a little better than like the Line 6 DL4's one. Those are just known for going bad. It's the same problem in the TC Electronics ones. Eventually they go bad. They're just little tactile switches that are cheaply manufactured. They're mass produced, and they do go bad. I've replaced some just from going bad on TC Electronics pedals, definitely on DL4 pedals, and even the Boss DD20 pedals. I've replaced the little tiny actuators in them.
Mm-hmm. So that's just the kind of the waiting to go kind of part, basically.
Yeah, I mean, when people are touring and even in studio use, I mean, these things are stomped on with our feet when we're going crazy rocking out. So they're going to fail eventually.
Yeah. Well, walk me through. So it seems to be this kind of the pattern on the pedal mods that you do is you have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And then like tier 2 can be like different things, like like the tier 1 can be a list of options that cover this thing, and then tier 2's a menu list of items. Kind of is that to kind of break it down, and this is your first option and this is the price point, and then tier 2 is going to be I offer this for this extra fee. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, you got it right on.
Okay.
That was another big change this past year. We totally revamped the website to have mods as tier options instead of like an a la carte option.
Mm-hmm.
I found it was just a lot more user friendly. I had it set where you could like pick this mod and pick this mod, kind of like a checkbox setup. And I would always get so many questions about what was included, what wasn't included, and then figuring out the pricing. It just got kind of messy. So I'm offering mods in packages as tiers has just really helped out the website and a better overall customer experience. And you're right, the tier 1s typically are something having to do with the foot switches. So on the Flashback X4 pedals, on the DL4, the Line 6, it's all relating to upgrading the foot switches. On the DL4, it also does the volume drop mod to fix the loss in volume when it's plugged in the stereo. And then up from there, each tier just adds something, whether it's a feedback mod if the pedal's big enough. Some like the DD, the 5, the 6, and the 7. It's like a tap tempo foot switch or a feedback mod because the pedal's so small. 2 foot switches won't fit. So yeah, and then just moving on up, tier 3, tier 4. I think the DS1 by Boss may be the only one that has a tier 5. I think the BF2, the flanger from Boss, has a tier 4. And yeah, it's just adding more and more toggle switches, more and more options to do just crazy stuff. The tier 5 on the DS1, the Boss Distortion, the orange one, there's like synth switches and stuff that makes it sputter, kind of like a circuit bent type of feel.
Right.
It's not for everybody, but it's pretty cool if you can figure out how to do like a droning synth with it or whatever. Some people really get into it.
Yeah. Well, so going to the tier system, and I think that's genius, by the way.
Thanks.
Has that cut down on the kind of just banter back and forth that maybe doesn't ever turn into business?
Oh, definitely. And just having a website that is really simple, super easy to navigate, and all the descriptions are there definitely cuts down on a lot of the confusion that I get in emails. Most emails I get now are about Let's see, I'm trying to think what the last email was about, or the last three or four emails were about. Usually people are asking if I still do custom rehouses, like the D7 Ibanez delay that I rehoused. Mm-hmm. And it's just so much custom work and so much time in it that I'm not currently doing those. But I usually redirect them to the DD20 rehouses, and everyone's happy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good, especially if you're gonna have like that balance between running, like having the other career and doing this as a passion. And you talk to like the different builders that I talk to, that seems to be one of the biggest struggles, is finding that balance, because especially in the first stages of the business, it's hard for it to be the bread and butter. So like building that business, but also not like where it takes over your life and you can't do anything else. So I think that's a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing, if any business owners or new business guys are listening in, obviously you have to set boundaries. You can't work 24/7 at your hobby business, or you'll just get burnt out. But another part of it is scalability. I have an MBA background, and something a lot of businesses fail at is they can make a product, make a service, but when the demand increases and they don't have a way to scale it at a consistent quality, they end up losing customers, they end up getting burnt out, and ultimately they quit because it just becomes too much. So scaling is the next thing we're trying to do. I've already have a technician doing my mods for me now. I don't know, he might be doing rehouses in the future. That's remains to be seen. But as I transition to products instead of services, products being like the gray matter and services being mods and rehouses, it'll be interesting to see what the next year brings.
Yeah, well, I think that's a very interesting direction that you're pivoting into this your own pedal line. And what kind of was the thought there? I mean, was that kind of like the dream from the beginning, is to build your own pedals?
Honestly, the dream kind of just started from repairing and modding. And then after a while, I kind of got tired of fixing stuff that's broken. Like, I wanted to create. And I just fell in love with the process of looking at schematics and understanding how things work, and what does what, capacitors and resistors and IC chips, diodes, transistors, all little parts working together. And then I started buying kits from other people. I have a couple buddies who design circuit boards. Our circuit boards are designed by some friends of mine in the industry. And I just started building things that were designed, and then seeing a finished product instead of fixing someone else's stuff. It's awesome. It's like, wow, I made this and someone wants it. And this can be a huge asset to someone for their sound and for their tone. So that's kind of how it's evolved over time. Going from repairing things and improving to designing something fresh and new is just really exciting to me. Having like a finished product in my hand that I picked out the enclosure color, I designed a lot of the circuit, and the experimenting on how different parts sound in the prototyping phases is just really fun to me. And I'm in the next step of, now that I've made one, I need to make a bunch more. So people who have signed up for the pre-order for the gray matter and beyond.
Awesome. Well, so how much time did it take to develop this kind of behind the scenes?
Like hours wise, or?
Well, I guess hours it'd probably be pretty phenomenal. Maybe time, as far as months.
Well, it's been 2 years, so 24 months.
Okay.
I think the next one will be a lot smoother. There's a lot of things just in the learning curve of designing a pedal, and I'm doing all that it kind of takes to get your feet wet and learn what you're doing. But I think the next one will be a lot faster. I'm praying not another 2 years. before I released another pedal. But yeah, time wise, this one was 2 years. I worked on it off and on. During that time, it wasn't like every night from 5 to 10 or anything like that.
Yeah. I imagine it's kind of like managing a project. You pick off where you left off, and kind of it takes as long as it takes to think through all the steps, and okay, I got to do artwork for this, and this got to be in this format, and all the things that beyond like modding a pedal, obviously, like bringing a brand new product to fruition.
Definitely, yeah. It's kind of funny. It's like once you learn one thing, it just opens a door to a whole bunch more problems or opportunities.
I was talking about that with Curtis Lamberton. He makes pickups, and he said it was like once he decided to make one decision, then that opened up a whole nother set of decisions to make.
Exactly, totally. It's like for the gray matter, for example, I went through one set of knobs that were really tall and skinny, and I decided, or at first I thought just black knobs, and then I didn't like the look of black knobs, so I went with the 2 different colors on the top and bottom. And then the knobs were just too thin, they looked weird. So I decided to go with the knobs that are on there now. But those knobs messed up the graphic because they were too big. So I had to have the graphic redone, which made the circuit board not fit. So then I had to go adjust the circuit board, and I mean, it's like one thing just affects another, and it's definitely a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, let's dive in to the gray matter and talk about, first of all, what it is, what gave you the idea, and then we'll kind of maybe walk through the control sets and what it does.
Okay, yeah. Gray matter is a 2-in-1 drive pedal. Each side, or hemisphere as it's labeled on the pedal, is based on the vintage gray version of the DoD 250 preamp pedal. It has a bunch of modifications, if you will, and improvements that help the circuit just kind of be more stable and more balanced, kind of modernized, if you will. That's kind of the skeleton edition of it.
So is this, and maybe I don't understand these terms, but I know like on an amplifier, I remember my first twin reverb that I had some kind of mod where it like jumpered the 2 channels, and it was like cascading gain stages. So like the first one, if you set it a certain volume or whatever, it was playing into the next channel. Is that kind of what's at play with a dual drive like this?
That's actually a really good example. I didn't even think about that. That's really good.
So they're playing off each other depending on how they're set.
Exactly. So basically the side of it, the top row of knobs goes first, and they're run in series. So the blue one feeds into the green one, and it's exactly like that. They're cascading blue into green. So you could say they run in series. You could say they're stacked drives. Mm-hmm. It's all different verbiage for the same end result.
Okay. Well, is there a particular love for this particular drive, or dare we say like preamp, that drew you to this particular circuit?
Yeah. I was when I was talking about the journey in the past year, I actually built a clone of the yellow version, the yellow reissue of the DoD 250, and it sounded like an awesome circuit. I mean, that one is only 2 knobs, a gain and a volume, and really simple, really easy to dial in and play with and have fun with. And I just took that circuit and built another one, and I just love the sound of how they just interacted together. Boosting one and then having the other one set as a drive, or flipping it over so the first one's like a drive and the second one boosts the signal of the first one. They just interact really, really well. And they're a simple enough circuit by themselves to fit into a small enclosure. Some circuits, they're just like massive, massive circuits. Some drive pedals, some fuzz pedals are just big. There's a lot of components, so I wouldn't be able to build two of them in a small enclosure. So I just had the idea of running two of them in the same box, and that's what kind of sparked the start of the gray matter. Awesome.
Well, I know one of the things everybody wants to ask, and we kind of talked about this previously, is there are actually other pedals that have taken this 250 preamp and made like a dual thing with them. Like I think the first thing that comes to mind is like 60 Cycle Hum has had like a limited edition pedal called the 5050. And it's kind of based on that premise. And I think there's another one, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe like Earthquaker Devices has something along that line. And
yeah, they have the gray channel.
Yeah, okay. I was going out a limb there because I haven't played either of those pedals. But so I guess the first question is, somebody would ask, well, what's different about the gray matter versus these other pedals? And I think I have an idea of kind of what's different, but if you kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. The 5050, I just found out about it like a week or two ago. I had no idea such a thing was even in existence when I started this one. And ironically, that's kind of how a lot of things in the pedal industry work. Like, you start working on a pedal and then realize someone's already thought of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, a good idea is a good idea. But I was kind of relieved that they had a limited run of it that's like it's already discontinued, which is pretty crazy because it's such a great sounding pedal. Like, I'm surprised they didn't make more of them or something. But that one is pretty much the closest thing on the market, or off the market, I guess, to the gray matter. Differences between gray matter and the 5050. Gray matter has more boost, or sorry, more gain on tap. The gain knob has just more in it. Mm-hmm. That's because of the values that I've chosen for the potentiometer inside. So if you really crank it up at like 7 o'clock or maxed out on both of them with a fair amount of volume, I mean, the thing has so much gain in it, it'll actually oscillate itself, which is pretty crazy. Some people really like the wall of sound type of thing. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't really use it much because I play more kind of alternative rock stuff. But you could technically use it as a droning note type of thing if you dialed it in right. And the reason for the increased gain is so that when you're boosting one channel into the other, sometimes it sounds really good if you have one pedal, like the blue side set really hot and the green side set kind of low. They balance each other out and it sounds just awesome. Mm-hmm. So another difference from the 5050 is the edge control that I have in there, and this knob is huge when dialing in gray matter. The easiest way to explain it is, well, technically it's a diode saturation control. So in simpler terms, it's like a blend knob for your hard clipping or your diodes. Okay. So if you have it set all the way to the left, it's going to have not very much of that real distortion drive from the diodes. If you have it set all the way right, it's going to be like nothing's being held back on the diodes at all. So like a normal pedal whenever you turn on the diodes. It sounds great on both sides. If you want a heavier distortion, turn it right. If you want more of an overdrive or a first stage distortion, turn it left. And it's pretty easy to set up. And then also the sense toggle switches are diode switches. I think 5050 has something similar to that one. But I'm not sure if they're using them as like a tone control, like a high, low, or low switch, mm-hmm. Or if they're using them as diodes. I'm not sure. One video I saw on them said they are like using like a sweeter sound and a crunchy sound, which is usually indicative of diodes. But I saw another video that says it's like a bass boost or something, which is usually a capacitor. Okay. So yeah, so they're a little bit different in that aspect. And then the let's see, Gray Channel from Earthquaker Devices. They have some really great products that they pull out. The main difference between Gray Matter and Gray Channel, besides the words, is Gray Channel is just a one effect pedal. There's not stackable drives inside of it. It's one pedal for a bypass on the right side, and then the left side is like a preset to switch between the first set of knobs or the second set of knobs. Okay. It's also a much bigger controller, or enclosure rather. So yeah, it's in a 1590B instead of a 125B. So it's significantly bigger. It's kind of like the for JHS fans, it's like the size of a sweet tea. Mm-hmm. And mine is the size of a I'm trying to think, like a Angry Charlie. Yeah. Or Brown. So yeah, those are a lot of differences between this one and the other two.
Well, I have a question about your diodes, and maybe again, I'm not adept on all the terminology, but when it comes to the diodes, it's my understanding there's the silicon and the germanium, right? Yeah. And yours, now correct me if I'm wrong, yours has an option of both, or is it one or the other?
Yeah, initially when I designed the pedal, the toggle switch was down for silicon, which the original circuit uses silicon diodes, like the Gray edition. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an homage to the original circuit. And then top, I had some of my favorite diodes that kind of produce a really nice crispy overdrive when the gain's turned low, and then when the gain's turned high, it's like a really cutting, but still pretty thick drive sound. And those are BAT41 Schottky diodes. They're not as common or popular, and I'm not really sure why, because they're probably some of my favorite diodes to use. They sound just awesome. They're like the perfect blend between like the crunchiness and the almost harshness of silicon diodes, but they're still really well balanced, kind of between a silicon and a germanium almost. Okay. So that's the right side. That's the blue side. Later on, I switched up the green side, so it was a little bit different. The toggle switch down is still silicon diodes, so you still have that option. And then the toggle switch up is the germanium diodes. Gotcha. I use the 1N270 germanium diodes is what I opted for. Okay. So yeah, those have kind of a warmer, woollier tone to them.
So there's a lot going on under the hood there that you're not going to find in a typical 250 circuit.
Oh, no, definitely not. A typical 250 circuit, like the yellow reissue, for example, that one has the silicon diodes only. There's no toggle switch to change diodes. And it also doesn't have the edge control, so it's as if the edge control is dialed like 100% all the time. Like you can't dial it back for a kind of a more relaxed drive at all. It's just all or nothing. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's very cool. I know today you sent me, you've got the audio sample of that up now, and we'll go ahead and share that in the group. I think it gives everybody an idea of what this thing can do.
Oh, yeah. So the audio sample, just a little bit of background on it. It's just me playing, kind of noodling around. I didn't rehearse something awesome to play. I just kind of started playing and played around with the controls as I was jamming. And it focuses more on the boost and the low drive aspects of it. And then at the end of the video, I crank it up a little bit higher to have a little bit more distortion. But the pedal's capable of even more distortion than what's in the video. I just ran out of time.
Yeah. Well, that sounds super, super interesting. I watched a video that Josh Scott made within a few days ago, and he's talking about kind of the premise between his 4-leaf clover preamp that he came out with at NAMM. And he was talking about kind of what a preamp is versus like an overdrive, and why it caught my attention because I was thinking about your 250 design and how a lot of times they would call it the 250 preamp, and really I guess that's kind of semantics. But what these do, what your pedal would do versus say like a tube screamer.
Yeah, that video is fantastic. I saw the video too. He produces some really, really top-notch content. If someone's looking for more information about kind of the differences between preamps and drives and buzzes and distortions or whatever and what have you. But yeah, just kind of an overview, like a Reader's Digest version, is a preamp is supposed to be like, in theory, the front side of an amp. So parts of an amp, you have, your input where your guitar goes in, and then there's a preamp that amplifies your signal to be louder, so that it can really be heard. And then after the preamp section, there's a EQ section, whether it's 1 knob or 3 knobs, and that kind of is where your tone shaping happens. And then in the output, right before the output, there's the power amp section. That kind of blasts your signal to drive the speaker. And preamp pedals initially were to kind of emulate or copy that preamp side of an amp. So also in theory, from what I understand, they're supposed to be really clean or transparent or whatever the buzzword is. So as you increase the volume, it's not supposed to change the sound of your tone of your guitar, because in an amp, that's really supposed to happen in the EQ section, not in the preamp section. So yeah, that's just what little I know about preamp pedals, and kind of how they compare to overdrive pedals. Is overdrive pedals are supposed to change how your guitar sounds. Tube screamers specifically kind of have a mid accent to the tone. Stevie Ray really capitalized on the sound of a tube screamer. If you really wanted to know what a tube screamer does to your guitar, just listen to just about any Stevie Ray album.
Right.
You can really hear it come through.
So if I understand right, the 250, even though like with yours, it's creating some drive sounds because they're cascading into each other, but in theory, it's kind of more like a boost, like a clean boost is what in theory it's supposed to do.
As far as gray matter?
No, the original 250.
It's kind of both, because the original 250 does have clipping diodes in it, so it's going to have some distortion.
I see.
But I suppose if you dial the gain all the way back and only have it boosted, you're going to get a pretty clean tone. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. So the EQ change in the gray matter versus like a TS style, what's going on there with the EQ? Yeah,
they're totally and completely different circuits. The gray matter focuses on just having the simplicity of controls. The original design just has a gain and a volume knob. Real simple. And kind of depending on just the way the circuit is, where you dial in the gain kind of changes how the pedal sounds tone-wise too. Which is part of the reason why I like gray matter so much, is because it gives you a little bit more control over what's happening with the pedal. Like, if you really like the setting of gain you're on, and you don't want the sound to change too much, and you want more or less drive, you can always play with the edge control to achieve that. Whereas the original, it's kind of set the gain first and then set the volume to boost it up to unity gain or more if you want it to be louder. The Tube Screamer has a what's called let's say it's a passive volume control. So there's one knob in it that is a very small section of the circuit that controls kind of a mid cut or a mid boost. So the gray matter doesn't have that. It's more kind of rely on your intuition as far as dialing it in, rather than having a dedicated tone control. And of course, you can always use the tone control on your guitar if you're wanting to really dial in a very specific sound too. Yeah. I forgot one more thing about the gray matter controls. Along with the toggle switches, there's a middle position that bypasses the hard clipping diodes altogether. So it really lets you use a more of a boost style. So that's really how to dial in the boost. And then with it bypassing the diodes, it also bypasses the edge control. So if you're just trying to get a real simple boost, you can put the diode switch in the middle. Don't worry about the edge knob, the edge control, and then just dial in the gain and volume. It's a lot, kind of a simpler take to it, the pedal. Also, the foot switches are intentionally placed really close together. Like, they're not so close together where you'd have a problem only trying to hit one. So you can easily hit one foot switch by itself. But they're close enough together so that you can just step on it once, and it can switch which effect is activated just by stepping once, because you'd be stepping on both of them. Or if you have them stacked where both of them are on, they're also close enough together so you can step on it once and turn them both off at the same time. Yeah. So, that's something that a couple people have raised to me. Hey, those are too close together. I'm going to step on them both at the same time. I've tested it with shoes on, without shoes on, and it's really, really intentional. Like, I really like it that way. Some people might not like it, but I'm hoping that most people see the convenience of it, like I do.
Yeah, actually, I remember now in your product overview, you pointing that out towards the end of the video, and that was a very interesting feature.
Yeah, definitely. And if it is a problem for some people, you can always run it in a true bypass looper, and just cut the whole pedal off or on with one external switch too.
Okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Let's see, you're asking about availability, right?
Yeah. Kind of walk us through when this is going to be available and how we can get our hands on it.
Drum roll. It's available now. I released the website for pre-orders this past weekend. I've kind of put it at a 20 slot start for the first batch. So the discounted rate for the first 20 pre-orders is $199, $200, and then the retail price after the initial 20 will be $250. So it's based on a $250. The price is $249. Save $1. I mean, there's a lot of pedals out there that you can get for $200. And kind of the reasoning behind the $250 price is it's handmade. I mean, hand wired. I'm soldering all the connections in here. So you're going to get a real authentic kind of a boutique. Someone actually made this, not a machine feel to it. Supporting small business, which pretty much in small business, everything's going to be more expensive because someone has hands on it. And you're getting two pedals in one. Like, it's literally two independent controlled pedals. So if someone wanted to, they could say they're actually buying two pedals instead of one.
Right.
And then also it saves space on your board. Instead of having two whole individual boxes, you only have to put up with one box, so you can buy more pedals. So
actually, what's going on right now is the chance to get in on it for a introductory price, and then it's going to go to the $249 once it becomes just everyday price.
That's exactly right. There's it's a $50 off sale for the first 20 pre-orders. I think there's about, at the time of this recording, 15 slots left, I want to say. So we had a few guys come in and place their orders and pay for them. I mean, I'm just amazed by the support from the community. It's just been awesome. Before I even posted the sound demo, I had two or three pre-orders already placed before they even heard it. So I'm just blown away at the dedication and the support behind kind of me and what I'm doing. It's really exciting.
That's awesome. Well, kind of point us in the direction you mentioned. There might be some other pedals here in the near future that you're looking at. When do you think you might want to open that up, the availability?
Yeah, I'm throwing around a few different ideas about launching future pedals. I have another one in the works with a guy who's here in the States. He's designing the circuit board for me based off of my schematic. And that one will probably be a while. I need to move some more of the gray matters before I dive into another pedal. Mm-hmm. Each pedal is a significant investment in time and money. So I definitely need to get ahead with gray matter again before I launch another pedal. I don't want to spread myself too thin. And then there's some other ideas in the future, just kind of projecting to the next 6 months to a year of different ways to bring pedals to musicians. So there's a lot of stuff in the works. There's a lot of stuff kind of floating around in my brain that I haven't written down yet. But yeah, for now it's GD20 rehouses, pedal mods, and gray matter. And then in the future there'll be at least one more drive pedal, and yeah, we'll just keep moving forward. Awesome.
Well, it's exciting to see where you were a year ago to where you are today, and seeing you moving forward, and seeing the business plan and everything come together. It's really cool to see that, man.
Thanks. Yeah, man, it's been just a rush. It's been a ride, and I'm still learning stuff every day from people who are new to pedals, people who are masters at building pedals. Still learning stuff every day.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, and I was very intrigued by your announcement with the gray matter, and I think a lot of people are interested in kind of what this pedal can do, and thanks for taking the time to just kind of walk us through that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and in the group kind of in parallel share the videos, kind of what they do, so that our listeners can understand kind of what we're talking about with that, and kind of use that as a point of reference.
Yeah, it would definitely help out a bit.
So, well, thanks so much, Mike. It's been a pleasure to hang out with you again, and look forward to talking again with you in the future.
Absolutely, man. The pleasure's been mine. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm always open for a chat or discussion. There's the Instagram at Loophole Pedals. There's the Facebook Loophole Pedal page. And then my Loophole email is just Mike at Loophole Pedals. So any of those venues, I'm always down to chat about gear. I may not reply instantly, but I always reply to all my emails. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for filling us in on where to find you at. And if you're not following Mike already, go find him on Instagram and go ahead and follow.
Sweet.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you.